Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining me here on another week of the Unstoppable Dad Project. Appreciate you taking the time to listen to this little podcast that I put out each and every single week. Before I get into today's topic, please make sure that you are subscribed on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. We are on all the major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple, Google, all of those ones. And while you're there, if you're able to, please leave us a 5-star review and share it around with a friend. By you doing those things, you'll continue to help me grow this podcast and see the absolutely phenomenal growth that I have seen from it over the last 2 years. And for that, for you guys always doing that and helping me out, helping me to grow this podcast, I am forever grateful. This week, I want to talk about a topic which has come up on the podcast before. It comes up in my life, and I'm sure it comes up in everybody else's life. Title of the podcast is No One Else Will Care As Much As You Do. And the context that I want to talk about that on quickly in today's episode is when it comes to taking action on something. And I've been guilty of it. Many people that I've spoken to have been guilty of it. We care about what other people think, and as a result, it creates a little bit of paralysis when we're trying to start to move things forward, or we're trying to take action on something, or we've got to put something that we feel passionate about or that is important to us out into the world. And there was an instance this week where there was a gentleman who was doing a video for his business and sent me through the video to have a look. And I've obviously done quite a bit of video content over the last 2 years, albeit it has been far from perfect. It has been at times downright horrible, as have some of the episodes of the podcast. I truly appreciate that. But he was doing this video. He did this video and he said to me, "Did you notice the problem at the end?" And I'm like, "No." Well, like, what? And he was wearing a suit jacket, and he said, the pocket square in the suit jacket changes. And I'm like, okay. And he was very concerned about this. Like, he was concerned that everyone would pick up on it, and as a result, it would ruin the video. And there were some other bits of feedback that I'd given him about the video that had absolutely nothing to do with that. But that was the thing that he decided to hone in on. And it really highlighted to me that whenever we're doing something or we're starting something or putting something out there that we're passionate about, we are really going to care about the minutiae and the little details much more than anyone else will. And I said that point to him. I'm like, you are going to care about that more than anyone else is. To be completely honest, I didn't even notice it. And I'm pretty sure that 90% of people are not going to notice that detail. Now, there are some other elements and aspects of that which could potentially improve it, but the point and the emphasis that I actually made past that point was, I actually think you just need to put this video out, get some feedback from the market, and then you can adjust from there. Because right now, in this instance, and in many instances that have come up in my life and people that I've spoken to, there has been times where I've been so focused on the minor details that it has stopped me from taking any action at all. And at the end of the day, the biggest thing that I think we all need to understand is, firstly, imperfect action is probably going to be better than no action in the long run. Because even with imperfect action, we can release something and then we do get some feedback from it, positive or negative, and it's either going to reinforce that we're on the right track, or it's going to give us some feedback that maybe we need to make an adjustment and we need to move it in a slightly different direction. But we only get that feedback if we actually take the action on it in the first place. And I've spoken about this before on the podcast. This podcast probably got released 12 months after it should have, because I was so focused on the little details and the minor details. I was focused on getting a better camera, a better microphone, making sure everything was perfect before I actually released everything, until I got to the point where somebody reminded me what I had just reminded this gentleman about over the course of the week, that nothing's ever going to be perfect for you. And most people will not care to the point that you will, because it is important to you and you are passionate about it. So if you are obsessing over the minor details and it's stopping you from taking action, we need to understand that in order to actually improve things, we do need to take action. And imperfect action is going to be better than no action. Now, the second point of that for me, and this is something that maybe it's just me getting old, but I'm starting to care less and less about what other people think. And that is easier said than done. Because I believe, and I've heard this on a podcast or read it in a book, I don't know, and I'm going to bastardize and paraphrase this, but it's almost an evolutionary trait where we need to worry about what the tribe thinks. Because back in the primitive days when we used to live in tribes, if everyone hated us, we'd get pushed out of the tribe. And then we'd be all alone. And then the chances of survival when we were on our own in these very primitive days were non-existent. Like, you would die if you got pushed out of the tribe. So as a result, we have almost this evolutionary need to worry about what other people think. But then the problem with that in today's day and age is the tribe access we have is now global. With social media, with the access we have to people who we don't even know, and the way they can give us feedback, it's created this environment where we have a much broader tribe that is able to give us feedback, that we have this evolutionary need for them to inherently like us. So understanding who is actually important to listen to I think is a really skilled trait that people need to develop over time. So for me, like, who do I listen to? And as I said, as I'm getting older, maybe becoming more of a grizzled old man, I'm caring less and less there's less and less people I actually care what they think. And firstly, the first group of people are those people who are important to me. And that's obviously my wife, that's my kids, and that's my immediate family. And also my close friends. But even then, with that, when I'm talking about that group of people, right? And this, even the second group of people I'll go over, I think it's the same thing. But this group of people, if I go and I do something and I take some action to try and better myself, I go and put out a podcast or whatever the case might be, even if they give me some feedback on what they think, if they truly care about me and my development, it's going to be in a supportive way. They are going to be trying to help and guide me in a way which they know how. But then for me, understanding that they're also giving me their advice and their feedback based off their set of circumstances, which may not necessarily, and their outlook, which may not necessarily be the same as mine. So if that was the case, and if you're worried about those people's opinion, it's almost like you don't need to be worried about it, because yes, they may not agree with what you're doing, but they're more than likely still going to support you in what you're doing. Should it not be detrimental to your overall health, your overall sanity, your overall well-being, or, it's not downright illegal or whatever the case might be, they are going to support you because they will want the best for you. But then when they are giving that feedback, understanding that they are giving it to you from their perspective makes it a little bit easier to go, okay, maybe I don't agree with that, but I can take that on board and maybe I discard it, or maybe it helps me adjust and move forward. So that's the first group of people. The second group of people would be people who are doing better than me, or someone I look up to, someone who I am paying for advice, so a coach or something like that, they are the second type of person that I would take feedback from. But again, they are not, you have to understand that when feedback is given, it doesn't have to, you don't need to take it in a critical way. And this is the other thing when we start caring about what other people think. Being objective and not taking that feedback or that criticism personally is a very, very hard thing to do. And it's something in my life I've really struggled with, is you don't have to take it personally. But it's very hard to not take it personally when it is something that you are passionate about. If you're trying to build a business and you've put your heart and soul into a business and somebody tells you you're doing something wrong, especially if you've been doing it for a while, not wrong, but they're suggesting a better way and maybe you should adjust your approach, it's hard to not take that personally. And initially, I think one skill I guess I've learnt with that is understanding who I am as a person and going, like feeling that you feel that discomfort to start off with, but then you have to take a step back, take a big deep breath and go, okay, this is not putting the advice through the filter of, is this person somebody that I want to take advice from? And in saying that, are they someone who's important to me, immediate family, or are they somebody who I respect? And overall, is this person giving me this advice from the point of view of they want me to get better? And if the answer is yes, then I have to learn within myself to not take that personally and then adjust my approach and move things outside of that. But outside of those people, it doesn't matter what other people think. If you're happy doing what you're doing and it's what you want to do and you think that it's going to move you forward and get you moving in a right direction, whether it be business or health or whatever undertaking that you're trying to look towards, then understanding that no one is going to care about these things as much as you. No one is going to be as critical on this stuff as much as you are is a really important reminder for us as men, as human beings, and as someone who, if you're someone who constantly is looking for more, but you're finding you're not taking action on anything, then I think that's a really important reminder that no one is going to care about some of that stuff as much as you are. Those little things that are stopping you from taking action, that little fear in the back of your head that you're going to get heavily judged for it, and that's going to maybe hurt your ego a little bit, because at the end of the day, that's probably all it comes down to. We don't want our egos to be bruised. We don't want to feel like we're not good enough. But understanding that not everyone's criticism needs to be valid, and understanding what's important to take on. And if somebody is giving us feedback and criticism from a place of love and from the point of view that they want us to be better, then we don't need to take it personally. We can take it objectively and use it in a way where we are able to propel ourselves forward and be better and adjust, and that we don't need to stay on this fixed path all the time. We can adjust based off the concerted, caring feedback that we are getting from these people that are important to us. But outside of that, who cares? Who cares what they think? Because there's the old saying that goes around that generally you're never going to get hate from somebody who is doing better than you. And that's, I think, another important thing to understand. So that's it for this week. Just remember, imperfect action is better than no action at all. And in fact, it is actually a very hard thing to take perfect action, because I don't think there's any such thing as perfect action. I think you have to take action in order to refine what you need to and start to move whatever it is forward that you're trying to change or you're trying to implement or you're trying to get started on. Because at the end of the day, to recap on the title of this podcast, No one else is going to care about it as much as you will. So let me know if that's something you've struggled with. I'm sure it's something everyone struggled with, but what specifically about that have you struggled with? Send me a message, drop me a comment on the Instagram post, the podcast on Spotify, the Facebook page, the Facebook group. Let me know if that's something you've struggled with. But thank you very much again for listening. I appreciate each and every single one of you, and I will see you all next week. Goodbye.